What's up, you guys, and welcome to another episode of 31 Views. And good God, thank God that that movie would just ended. Oh, one of the most boring movies that I got to see for Halloween. Now, I expected this to be like a full blown horror movie because when I got this, it was listed under horror, and plus it was a Polish movie, and I was like, okay, you know what, European horror, I'm up for that. There are a lot of European horror movies that I really enjoy, and decided to give this a shot. Now, this is in no way a full blown horror movie. This is horror wrapped up into comedy, wrapped up into musical, wrapped up into drama, wrapped up into fantasy, and it's not as awesome as you might think. Maybe somebody else might enjoy this, but to me, this was really boring. This movie is set in the 1980s, and it's about these two mermaids, Golden and Silver, and Silver has blonde hair, and Golden is a brunette. Anyways, they are founded by a rock band, and they realize that these two mermaids, they're great. They have great vocals, so they bring them. They recruit them for their band. And first off, they start off as strippers because the club that the band were performing at was a bar slash strip club, until they slowly gain recognition, and the mermaids became a hot act. And the way that it was done, it was so hokey, and not in a way, because there are two ways that you can go about this. You make it hokey, where people just accept it, and there's a comedy route, and there's also the more serious route where people don't think that this is real. So, but this was completely different, where people were accepting it, and were like, oh, this is, wow, that's so great, that's awesome, they're mermaids. And I'm like, nobody even thought that, hey, maybe they just they have good animatronics or something like that. I don't know. Now the mermaids, they I'll give them one thing. The two women that play the two mermaids are incredibly hot. They're very beautiful women, but their acting is so cheesy, and it's just uh, nobody, like, there's nobody that's redeemable. There's nobody that you're invested in. There are moments where you're like, oh, this is really gruesome, and the lengths that they would go to do such a thing. But at the same time, it's just it's in a boring setting, and in a boring pace. Like, there are moments where I'm enjoying it. I'm like, oh, this is cool, and then right after that, like, not even 2 minutes later, and I'm so fucking bored. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, just move already. Now here's the thing. One of my favorite movies, probably my favorite movie of all time is Shawshank Redemption, and that is a slow burner. A lot of my favorite movies are slow burners, but this is just a boring ass movie. And it's not just boring. The musical portions, like every 5 minutes, there's a musical spot. There are movies that work well, with the musical aspect, but this, it has some catchy tunes, but most of the songs are not really that good, and you're like, okay, when is this gonna end? And there's nothing, because here's the thing about musicals. Despite the fact, even if you have like a bad number, you still have to have something interesting going on, because it might not appeal to everybody. So for somebody that doesn't like the song, maybe the setting they like, you know, they're into, or you know, the characters, or something in the background, or you know, the aesthetics, something, you know, like I do enjoy Bollywood movies, and they, if there's like a song that's not so catchy, there's something about it that's enjoyable, whether it's the dancing, or you know, the outfits, or something that I'm into. So yeah, the lure, it absolutely gets a star, a star and a half, if I'm being generous. I'll give it a star and a half, because I do think that there are moments here that I thought were well done, but at the same time, the movie, it's not really good. It doesn't hold up on its own. And this came out 2 years ago in 2015, and it feels like something that you would see in like, you know, it seemed like a very low budgeted, you know, direct to DVD type of movie. And that's it, there are a lot of movies that I enjoyed that are in a shoestring budget, like fucking the Blair Witch Project, you know, and there are movies that I'm into that are made out of that, but they had something, they had substance. This had none. And they took the story of, you know, the Little Mermaid, and kind of changed it up. There are movies that use fairy tales and change it up, like Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Slayer, Hansel and Gretel, Jack the Giant Slayer. Those movies, I thought that they were fun. They were enjoyable. Like even Snow White and the Huntsman. You know, it was a little bit boring, but it was, you know, enjoyable at some parts. This had nothing. This really had nothing going for it, and I'm really tired of just, you know, going in circles about this movie. So yeah, avoid this. Avoid this at all costs. Yeah, I really expected more out of this, but no. This wasn't good at all. This was absolutely horrible. So yeah, with that being said, rate, comment, favorite, how, please subscribe, and check out my next video. I'll be talking about something else.